Welcome back to Electrolysis Unplugged. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Joannie.
This podcast is where we step a little outside the treatment room and talk about the profession itself, the history, the technology, and the people shaping where electrology is going.
And today's episode is one we've been really looking forward to because we're talking about something every electrologist interacts with every single day. That's your equipment.
Specifically, we're talking about Clareblend. It's a name that many electrologists recognize immediately, but the story behind the company is something we don't always hear about in depth.
So today we're joined by Carl from Clareblend, and we're going to talk about the history of the company, what makes the equipment unique, and what practitioners should understand when they're working with Clareblend technology.
Carl, thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, everybody.
Today, we are joined by Carl from Clareblend. And so we've got a special episode for you. Honestly, Carl, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about Clareblend.
It is really wonderful to have you here, Carl, because let me tell you something. Like, you have been a supporter of E2C from the start. Just seeing the fact that, like, you have the ability to see where electrology is going as well as a young mind in the industry. But it is really, we're grateful for that, not only support, but also for opportunities for our members to be able to talk to you. Because often many of us don't meet face-to-face unless it's at an annual convention, you know?
Yeah.
Recently, you took on a new endeavor, which is working to bring Clareblend into a new space. And I want to start with a very simple question for today, because today's conversation is very focused within Clareblend's identity and their legacy and that starting point. And the simple question for you today is, for electrologists who may know the name of Clareblend, but not necessarily the full story, how would you describe Clareblend in one sentence?
So I would say Clareblend is one of the first American manufacturers of electrolysis devices. That's the main sentence, I would say.
I love it.
So I guess that's great because you just kind of mentioned it here. So they're mentioned a lot as an early American manufacturer for electrology equipment. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the company? So, like, where does it fit in this profession?
Yeah. So actually, Clareblend's history goes back to 1924, so just over 100 years. It was started in California, in the San Fernando Valley, by a lady called Claire Rosner, who started the company as Claire Manufacturing Company with her husband, Harold Rosner. So he was an engineer, and he developed one of the earliest air desensitizers, which they then put in their first 4-needle or 8-needle epilator device.
Can you explain a little bit for people that don't understand what an air desensitizer is? What is that?
Yeah. So yes. So it's the air feature we have on one of our devices. Basically, you're blowing through the probe cord, and you're basically desensitizing the skin, reducing pain during the treatment. And yes, It's been on the market for some time. We've always had a device with air. Not all our devices do have air. But yeah, Claire's husband was one of the inventors of these air desensitizers and decided with Claire to put it in their first device in the 30s. So the history dates back 100 years. It changed ownership a few times. When Claire decided to retire, her daughter, Betty Rosner, took over the company, which she continued the legacy until the 90s, I believe. No, actually 2004, when Richard and Nadia Klukovic bought it from them. And also, I forgot to mention that they moved in the 90s with Betty Rosner, Margin Betty, to Reno, Nevada. So yeah, the history is definitely there.
Wow, that's a long time.
That's where they're at now.
Yeah. So we're currently in Reno. The company hasn't left since the early 2000s when they moved there.
Wow. It's interesting, those air desensitizers. So as you guys can see behind me, like, a lot of my museum pieces are over behind me. The air desensitizers that are in some of the earlier units, they were almost as large as the epilator itself.
Oh, wow.
In some of our units, they are basically a case that would sit underneath an epilator, and you would attach it to the epilator as a secondary feature. And what's really cool in the fact that you guys are still using it is it's a distraction technique that is very efficient for a lot of people because the brain gets distracted easily. And while it's not necessarily like traditional pain management, it's not like it's delivering cold air to the area or whatever.
No.
It helps it helps create a space for your brain to stop focusing on one thing and diffuse that. So it's really cool that you guys still have that as a feature in there for
It got
electrolysis.
it got a lot smaller too.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I remember using that when I
Oh.
was in school. So I think like, because the probe holder, I mean, you have this plastic, essentially this plastic sleeve around a probe
Mhm.
cord. So it
Correct.
makes it like a good 1/2 inch thick, you know,
Yeah.
just the whole thing. And it was kind of loud. I remember that. Is that better now? Compressors a little bit
I
better?
think it probably got better over time. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I guess it
probably.
depends on the
That
casing
was an
too.
old machine.
Yeah.
I think it was a
I my first machine was a Clareblend that I had 2 units. I had a Clareblend, the Ultra Blend. I actually have it behind me
Ultrablend, yeah.
over here. And then I had the Gentronics multi-dual, and those were the 2. And like they both had air features on it. And the Clareblend, what I liked about it was a start-stop feature. So like as the current applied itself, it came off. So there are some pretty cool things that can come on there. But I also like for someone like me that's like tapping me on the shoulder every 2 seconds if I heard the air come on. And
Yeah.
so you had that continuous flow on the Clareblends. It was really, really nice because it never stopped. And I always looked at it as like a little canned air.
Yeah.
So if I had loose hairs, I'd be
Pressured
like,
can.
yes, exactly. A little air pressure. So that's really cool that the history is 102 years old. I mean, that's not a lot. That's not a short period of time.
No, agreed.
When practitioners hear the name Clareblend, what are like words or ideas that you hope that they're going to associate with the brand going forward and from the past as well?
So I would say, well, from the past now and moving forward, quality, precision, and reliability are really the 3 words we stand behind for our brand, the most important words. And you spoke about the Ultra Blend before. There's still a lot of people using the Ultra Blend, and those devices we have not made. I don't have the exact years, but it's over 20, if not 30 years. So probably 20.
Oh yeah.
I'll safely say that. So that's our 3 words. Yeah.
At some point, just so you know, for any person that's always interested on the age of their machine, if you ever send me one of those older units, I probably have what year it was. I would have to go look up the Ultra Blend because I'm not going to memorize it, but I probably have some of that history in there through my own research. So that's really cool. What about Joanie? Do you have anything to ask him on that one?
I mean, we know Electrology's seen several generations of practitioners by now. So, 150-year history, we just celebrated in 2025. So people who trained like decades ago and people who are just entering the profession now, how has Clareblend maintained its reputation for reliability across generations?
For reliability, we at Clareblend, we really focus on graduates, students, not licensed, established electrologists, equally the same. We're in many schools, so a lot of students have got to try our devices either with their teacher or in class, or even family members sometimes if they decide to go in electrology like them. So I think that's where a lot of word of mouth got out about the quality, the durability, the reliance you can have on our equipment, and I think that was a good thing for Clareblend over the years and helped us a lot.
So there was a big change recently with the company Clareblend. So it really came down to the ownership. So do you want to kind of help practitioners understand kind of what happened recently as far as ownership behind Clareblend, and maybe help practitioners understand a little bit the continuity of the brand?
Yes, for sure. So for those who do not know, or some may know, I also work for Silhouette Tone. I'm the vice president of Silhouette Tone Canada and USA. So in October 2024, we acquired Clareblend. Silhouette Tone did not acquire Clareblend, but we bought the business as a whole with a main purpose of not putting it into Silhouette Tone, because we wanted to keep the brand alive, keep the legacy going. I could tell you more about that if you have questions, but yes, so we acquired in October 2024. For sure, the first 3 months even the first year was a lot of transition But now I could say that, yeah, it's I'm gotten to know a lot about Clareblend. I get along very well with the team. It's great to be here. I'm actually in Reno right now for a few weeks to be at Clareblend's office. So yeah.
I mean, and you've been going back and forth now since October 24.
Yeah.
Because like as a distributor, so that's when it's like I get to have you East Coast, West Coast kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you've been a little bit of a ping pong table there. Um, that's a lot of work to have to be so mobile, especially between those two spaces. Um, how do you feel like Clareblend has managed to stay steady while evolving, like with the profession, but in this change?
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, at Clareblend, the team we have, our senior technician has been there for 30 years. So he's made the Ultra Blends. He has seen all the devices. He's repaired devices even before the Ultra Blends that we were still repairing in those days. So he has a lot of knowledge. We received a lot of knowledge also from the previous owners, especially Richard, who was the engineer behind the newer devices we have. He initially created the softwares and put them on the market. So yes, it's hard to stay mobile and always be taking planes and flying to different time zones. But, with a close relationship, we speak a lot on the phone. We have our meetings every few days. That's how we manage. And I do come here probably 5, 6, 7 times a year.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm answering the chat. That's a lot. Whenever we have to travel for CE events, I'm like, okay, you're moving a lot of parts, but you're literally living in like basically 3 spaces between
Yes.
Montreal and Florida and here or Reno.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of mobility. So
Yeah, you have to get used to it.
you really do. Who is it that so when you think about the profession today, like, and you're thinking about who's the primary audience of Clareblend equipment, who is this? Like, who are you reaching out to nowadays?
So we're trying to one of our big focuses, I won't say our main focus, is really in schools. So we try to partner up with schools. We know that when students learn on the equipment, they learn about it. They often tend to want to use it later in their career. So we want to partner with schools. We have a few new schools we onboarded last year since we took over the company. Of course, we have a lot of old-time customers, I'll say, that just need sometimes to buy a new device, a second device, or want to upgrade what they currently have. So we have a lot of recurring business also that comes from people that know our brand already. But I would say that those are our 2 focuses, is really expanding on the established electrologists and then getting in front of more students to try our devices.
That's so smart. As a teacher, like, and I'm sure Joey agrees, like, when we are putting someone on the floor and through the equipment, it's like if they don't get a couple weeks at least into each one, they can't make decisions based on what their comfort was and their interests are. They're basing it based off of like what they had access to, and sometimes the affordability factor. But like they're like, okay, like what can I get when I get done with school? What can I use when I get done with school? And how comfortable do I feel in those spaces? For sure.
Yeah.
I guess this kind of segues into my next question, which is, so the equipment, I mean, is it designed more for the experienced practitioner, or do you see it as equally accessible for students or newer electrologists?
So I'll say a few things on that. Clareblend has a pretty wide range of devices available. I think we have a total of 4 electrolysis devices on the market right now that we actively make. So we really have a price point for all budgets. So that's really a plus for students, because we all know when you just paid for school, you got to open a business, all those costs add up. So sometimes it's great to start with a smaller device, even one that does all 3 modalities, but you can upgrade later to the air features and different options you have on those more expensive devices. But we really try to keep that range available for everybody, that price range. And then, yeah, tell me.
I was going to say, what about like ease of use?
Ease of use. Yeah, that was my next point. So in terms of ease of use, our devices are easy to use, I will say, but we have presets built in that are very straightforward and user friendly. So I think that's great for newer electrologists or graduates. But our manual mode is very comprehensive. So people that really are established. They know how to do electrology. They know how to set their currents. They're talking in voltages. Well, it's straightforward. The voltages of each current and the units of light you're building. So I think our devices are truly adapted to both, especially that we have a wider range. We have one that's more simple. Maybe that would be easier for a graduate to grasp.
Gotcha. That's okay. So, and then like, what do you feel is like a misconception you hear about Clareblend equipment or its role in the industry? Like, what's something that you're hearing that has not been truthful since acquiring it?
I think the misconception would be that Clareblend's equipment is outdated or old. I've heard that before. I also have my own opinion because, well, I'm in the younger generation, I can say. But that's a common misconception I can speak about. Our devices, I do not believe are old or outdated. I do believe that we don't have the fancy marketing thing around the devices where we built in so many features that they look really like gadgets. We tried to stay more on the simple type devices. But that's also one of our mottos is don't overcomplicate hair removal. So we really have a working device. Why would we reinvent the wheel? Is more of our thought. But I can also say that aesthetically, we are working to improve our devices because we do believe there's always room for improvement. And we have a few projects in the works right now regarding our devices.
Okay. And so all of these changes stay in Reno. So pretty much the manufacturing stays in the US?
Correct. 100% in the US. The only thing is we have a bigger engineering team in Canada. So we do use that asset to help us with development.
Wow. And that really is an asset because then basically it builds that team to give you more comprehensive
Well, that's it. It's just
across the board.
I have multiple teams that know the device. So, sometimes, especially when you're developing devices, things can get complicated really quickly, especially with software, circuit boards. And, when you have multiple people working on the same thing, well, some will figure out things that others haven't. So you really get multiple opinions, and that's what we like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Go ahead, Steph.
No, you're good. Let's go into the philosophy behind the equipment. Let's talk about this.
Well, I guess one phrase that came up when we were preparing for this conversation was, like you just said, don't overcomplicate hair removal. So what does that philosophy mean when you're designing electrology equipment?
This episode of Electrolysis Unplugged is sponsored by Clareblend. Clareblend is one of the first American manufacturers of electrology equipment, proudly built in the United States and rooted in decades of quality and reliability. Their philosophy is simple: don't overcomplicate hair removal. Clareblend epilators give electrologists direct control over current, simplified settings, blend-focused precision, supporting safe and intentional modality selection. It's not just for experienced electrologists. New professionals appreciate equipment that's intuitive, responsive, and grounded in solid engineering as well. Even with the changes in ownership, Clareblend remains steady, continuing to support customers with a growing team and real humans connecting you beyond standard business hours. Clareblend, quality, reliability, and innovation you can count on.
So what it means at Clareblend is really, we do not overcomplicate the settings on our devices. We have the right amount of presets and manual settings to get the job done exactly how it needs to be. So that's a bit of our philosophy in regards to that.
When you talk about Clareblend machines often are associated with giving practitioners a lot of control over that current, like you're saying, why is that level of control when someone's actually working, when they're actually working in the treatment room, what does that provide the practitioner?
So most of our devices have 2 foot pedals, and I just want to bring that in because I think it's a very interesting feat we have where you could really control the current separately or together, but you could really lead with your RF thermolysis and then bring in the galvanic when you're working in blend. So it just allows more, control, wiggle room for the currents. Our voltages are always displayed on the devices and the units of Lie. So I think that's very interesting. It goes back to the Hinkle charts. But yeah, I think that's what I would respond.
You have, you have, someone's like, I love how Clareblend has 2. That's really cool in that space. And then Lori says, if someone like myself is trained she's trained on Annapolis.
Mhm.
And this might not be the time to answer this in that moment because we have some other spaces here as well. What can you tell us about Clareblend that stands out versus, and I'm going to use this because the two machines that you're working with on the regular, so you have Silhouette Tone and Clareblend, like what
Mhm.
would be the things that stand out in opposition is what I want you to put in the back of your head, and like think about that answer for a little bit. I don't want you to like just all of a sudden jump into it, unless you feel like you have an answer for it. But that is the question that did come in the chat.
So the question is if you're a Dectro, like an Annapolis user, what are the differences that stand out?
Yeah. And then it's really cool, like Michaela saying, interesting about leading with AC or DC. Actually, yes. And that's like with the Apple's, like you have that same control and being able to lead with AC or DC within your blend settings, which is something that we don't necessarily have in Silhouette Tone in the manual settings there. But it is actually a very relevant thing that electrologists can use to amplify how that current happens. And when you say that they can do that, they're doing that manually with their feet.
Yes,
within
correct.
that space because it's two pedals.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that they understood what we're talking about in that space. On, for example, in Apple's, it's literally a button at the top of your bar that would lead with either the AC or the DC component of it. So just to kind of help you in that space.
And just also to add, you can use only one foot pedal. It's an option to use both, but they come with both. So.
And when you use the 1 foot pedal, you can't then lead with AC. It would always lead with DC, or it would always lead simultaneously.
Simultaneously, yeah, correct.
Okay. So that great question. Thank you for asking that. I am reading the chat. Jenny,
yeah, no, that's what I'm doing too, which is why, sorry for the silence. I'm just kind of seeing what's coming through. So there's actually, Celesta actually put in her 2 cents because Celesta did come to my school for some advanced education. And so she's trained on the Apple's because that's mainly what we have here at the school. But she does have some Clareblends, like she mentioned up earlier in the chat. And so she said that she actually loves Clareblend for the blend component. And we'll get into modalities in a little bit, so we can talk about how that's a little bit different. But she does prefer the thermolysis. She likes the 2 pedals also, like she mentioned. And she prefers the thermolysis on the Apple's, but both machine can do it all, which is great. So like being able to serve, the clients and do all modalities, I think is definitely important.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's so great to read that, Celesta, because I'm going to tell you right now, I actually did the same thing. And granted, as a school, we have access to more machine types, right? It's not like I'm limited on my tech in front of me, but I do have spaces where I feel like technology thrives better in certain manufacturers. And Clareblend, when it comes to blend and galvanic, it is quite a beautiful machine for its distribution of the energy. So I would happen to agree with that comment in there.
Yep. So I guess that kind of takes us to my question, which sort of kicks off of this, but how does Clareblend approach thermolysis and blend settings in a way that supports electrolysis during treatment?
So as I said before, we really follow the Hinkel's chart for units of Lie. So that's our main base. The currents were developed, or anyway, I should say the program was developed by a very thorough engineer who we bought the company from, who was actually working in the airspace industry. He was working on planes before. So I think he had a lot of knowledge coming into electrolysis, and that helped a lot with the creation of these devices. But yeah, I would say really our currents are very precise, and that's how our devices work.
All right. Are there particular treatment situations where you feel Clareblend equipment is really shiny?
So as I said previously, where it really shines, I think, is for people who want to go straight to the point. You see the voltages, you learn the voltages, units of Lie you create, you target what type of hair you're treating, and you go on. That's it.
There's gonna be a question that is gonna come down the road about blend modalities and the true blend. But like as we move into this next part, we really want to like focus on education and modality understanding. So I feel like I'm gonna hold off on like asking your question to him for right now, so that we don't accidentally jump in front of like we tried not to torture Carl, and we sent him the questions we were going to ask him ahead of time so that he was not like, I don't have an answer for that, just to kind of give us some direction. So we'll go into that. So Joanne, I'll let you kind of lead with this part here.
I mean, our audience includes students, educators, and practitioners who've been, some have been working for decades, some are brand spanking new. So can you tell us how Clareblend supports electrologists who are learning to use flash thermolysis safely and effectively?
So we firmly believe that training on flash is the number one importance to have because it can be risky if not done properly. All our devices are actually, we have one flash thermolysis device, which is the Elegance Plus. The other ones do not do flash, but we use a low-level flash on that device. So it does increase safety because of that. We also found, this was the engineers that developed it before, that when we would put flash on a circuit board that for a device that doesn't have flash using the same board, there would be kind of connection issues. I can't go too deep on that, but I was told that that's the reason why we really had an independent circuit board for the flash devices. And that really helped control the currents. So that's one of the things we did. When you buy a device from Clareblend, you get a training. Of course, we're not all over the US, so it's on Zoom. But we do provide continued support. We much prefer that a user of the device ask us a question if they're not confident in treating a certain hair type or with flash or, in the face, it could have bigger repercussions, I'll say. I think that's pretty much how we support.
How fast does the flash go to on the machines? Because I haven't ever used a Clareblend, so I guess, tell me.
What's your timing?
Yeah.
What's my timing? I couldn't answer. I did not prepare I'm not an electrologist.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's okay.
It's about a tenth of a second, Joanne. It's very fast. And I will say that for myself, and this is 0% dig. It's a modification I had to do going from one machine to the other. Okay. But a tenth of a second is often not enough for a release if you are in a distorted follicle and not everybody can do all modalities of electrolysis and not everybody can handle all that. And so without being able to make adjustments just past the intensity, it means that you make adjustments in how your flash is done. So instead, you are then learning the displacement techniques even within doing thermolysis. You are trying to move your current to be in spaces when that point effect comes out to then get to it. It's not even so if you're going from, for example, an Apple's device or a Silhouette Tone device, and you can have and we're talking presets in this moment, and you have a one pedal moment in a Silhouette Tone, what we see is we can add a repetition in there and it can give us that time, but then we can also adjust our time and our intensity in that space. Same thing with an Apple's, same deal. You can move those two. With Clareblend, and I'm going to use the Elegance in this space because that is the one that has flash in there.
Correct.
It is an adjustment on your intensities, not on your time. And so that means that because there's no adjustment on your time, that means that you are adjusting things as an operator to increase how that point effect impacts the bottom 2/3 of the follicle. So if you end up with an Elegance and you're like, hey, Steph, I don't understand what I'm doing here because it's different than what I had before. Mike and I will sign up a day training for any person that needs to be, especially if they want to use it for other functionalities. They can always come up here and I will do a full run through of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's good you bring that up because I wanted to add that. So just take an example of this week. I have a customer who has an Ultra Blend and she really wants to try the Elegance, but of course, she's not in Reno and she doesn't go to shows. So she wants to try it and she wants a full training on it. So we have partner schools and we found one 30-minute drive from where she is, and she actually booked a full day with the Elegance with a teacher. So these are things we try to facilitate for people who want to learn more. Maybe they're from an unlicensed state and they're not comfortable using the device to get that training, that hands-on.
It's so important. And it's really great that you do facilitate that because the fact is when people are moving, when Lori was asking, if I use this machine, how does it differ from this one?
Yeah.
Sometimes the languages are so, it's me doing English and you guys doing French. It's like there's going to be a moment where I might be using the same language or I might be using the same words, but not in the same language. And that is especially like when in Clareblend and Instatronics does this, where they use volts versus RF. And so when we talk about the old Hinkle as a baseline, and in newer electrologists, the access to a Hinkle text is very hard to come by. And so they might have an incomplete education component. We have to step in as educators to help facilitate that so that they can then bridge the gap and get a quality machine like a Clareblend back in their hands and understand the technology. Blend is still an incredibly important modality for many electrologists. How does Clareblend support practitioners who do rely heavily on blend in treatments?
So for blend, I think Clareblend has always talked about true blend. It's been a talk within the company. So we firmly believe that with blend, you have to allow enough time for the galvanic to work, which is we say about 4 to 6 seconds. So our blend protocol is really focused on that. As I said before, you could really lead with a current before the next one with the 2 foot pedals. So a lot of our users use blend. It's popular it's still widely used on our devices. And yeah, I mean, our training really goes through all 3 modalities, covers blend as much as it does the rest. But as you know, we have some users that just do thermolysis and some people just do blend. So we adapt. And if a user tells us, we don't want to be trained on anything else than blend, then that's what we'll focus on.
Okay. And I guess this kind of leads into that comment, that question. Yeah. So the question was, are there different blend modalities or just true blend?
Just true blend. That's our focus.
And what you got to think about is that when you're using 2 foot pedals, you as the operator is the one creating those modalities. When I always taught about blend, I know, I beat you. When I was talking about blend modalities, especially when I'm teaching on the Applis machines, and I talk about generic blends, I'm kind of talking about these true blends. And that goes back to machines with 2 pedals, because the truth is that you as the operator can decide to either pulse the high frequency or just keep your foot on the pedal and keep it, for the duration of the pulse. So those are your modalities. It's just that some companies put those behind labels, whereas with the Clareblend, it's just a little bit more manual.
Agreed.
Yep, exactly. And Celeste says, what are benefits to having 2 pedals? Talk about after count and pre-count, etc. So on that, the benefit of having 2 foot pedals, I think of it as like the benefit of having a manual car versus an automatic in that space. But how would you as Clareblend describe the benefit of having those 2 pedals compared to a single pedal?
I think it's really about control, but it's not necessary. What I was trying to explain before is that you really can use both if you want to have that type of control. Some people don't. It's really up to the user, but we want to give that chance if you want. That option to have them. And that's why our devices ship with 2 foot pedals and have 2 connectors. But yeah, I think it's about control.
Yeah. So you're able to set the machine to do both galvanic and high frequency together and using only 1 pedal. That's a possibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's actually, I tell my students, like, if you're planning to have a little bit of agitation of your lie, take yourself out of the 1 pedal mode and go to 2 pedal. And then you're going to agitate that lie by adding bursts of your thermolysis in there, as well as displacement, right? If you are planning to get in there and just displace, right, and stir the pot of lye, and that's pretty much your only physical agitation you're doing past the fact that there is friction that happens in that thermolysis side, then 1 pedal is sufficient in that space, and it will feel very similar to your Omni blend, your Evolu blend, or your traditional blend over on your Silhouette Tone and your Instantron. So that is what it's going to feel like in those spaces. But when it's 2 pedal, it kind of feels like you have a manual transmission car and you've got to make adjustments when you're trying to shift gears. And that shifting gears is your AC pedal being your tapper. As Schuster said, oh, how many of you out there are tappers with his mustache, right? In his lecture, that's what he's talking about. It was like, well, I'm the tapper in that moment, right? And so I always laugh because whenever there's a new class and we're listening to our Schuster video, just to kind of like those first day jitters out of the system, right? They're like, what's a tapper? And I'm like, we'll get into that.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So.
We talked about one misunderstanding or misconception about the machines kind of looking, like being old technology. But are there any other myths or misunderstanding about modalities or equipment settings that you think electrologists should rethink?
I wouldn't want to call it a myth because I wouldn't call it a myth. But what I would say is when we talked about Clareblend's True Blend, we as a company didn't want, and I don't know about the future, but for now, this has been our focus to really stay on that True Blend. We believe it delivers everything it needs to get the result done of removing hair. So we didn't want to focus on the Evolu blend, all the other blends that Stephanie was talking about. We really stayed on our True Blend. So I won't call the rest a myth. It's not, but that's our focus at Clareblend.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's what it comes down to is when you create a space and or grow the space that you just came into, Carl, you are trying to see what set the company apart, what attracted you to that space, right? Mm-hmm. And then lean in on what people are telling you that they liked about the machine and leaving, you're not having to rework something unless the science is off, right?
That's it. That's exactly what we think.
Yeah. So let's talk about this shift of customer support, and the relationship you're trying to build. Something that stood out to us when we were talking to you about Clareblend is the emphasis on the practitioner relationships and support. I can tell you from my side of things, I have been very grateful to work with your guys' company because if I have a question or if something seems off or something seems different, it's an easy phone call in. But let's talk about what that support looks like after someone purchases the machine, not the zapper, right? Like the Zap Master. Your average person should be just like me, but what does that look like?
So, you get your device, you'll have a manual, like with all devices. I think our manual is pretty straightforward for the program. So it explains pretty well what type of hair you're treating and where you should set that device to start off. I'm sure that users get into their own programs at some point with the manual mode and they get to learn the device better. But yeah, so manual explains a lot. We have our training that's offered after the purchase. Oftentimes, some customers will ask for second Zoom, no problem. We put them in touch with the trainer directly. So we try to have that talk go through them because, as you know, I'm not an electrologist, so I cannot answer all questions. And a lot of them, if it comes to parameters, safety, efficacy, and all of that, I prefer that a trainer answers than myself. And yeah, like I said before, some people need additional hands-on training, so we really are trying to get them to a school that has the device. That's mainly our goal. It's easier in states that are more populated, a bit harder maybe in some states, but that's what we try to focus on. And anyways, we're always available for our users. Whether it be an email, a phone call, we always answer within the day. So.
And I guess my question I think you've already answered, but if you have something else to say, you can always say it. But if somebody is trying to troubleshoot or is trying to refine their treatment settings, how does Clareblend guide them through that?
So to refine the treatment settings, so I'm trying to word this. We give them the settings we believe are right, or anyways, our basic settings. If they want to refine them further, we're very happy to hear their feedback and to give our opinion on it. So usually we really want to relay that to one of our trainers. We have two that has used the device, knows the settings, and can answer that. And if there's new settings we didn't know about, we're really happy for that feedback. So
awesome.
Okay.
You're getting peer pressured in the group chat. Celeste says, Carl, consider joining us. Go to electro school.
Oh my God. I have to say,
with all your free time.
5 years ago, I didn't know what electrolysis meant. I knew what it meant, but figure of speech. But now, yeah, the past 5 years have been very electrolysis focused.
Yeah.
So fun.
And
It happened.
fun fact for everybody, Stephanie removed my first hair while I was in Centralia. Remember, Stephanie?
Yeah.
Did you cry?
I did. I did.
Was there lots of crying, screaming?
I didn't like it.
A little tear?
He wasn't thrilled.
But she did it on the Gentronics, I think. It was a
did.
Yeah.
Because Karine was wanting to have like she's like, I want to play with the multi, and I was like, you got it. And so Carl offered himself up as tribute when we bought our because we have a laser through
Brave man.
and of course, like she was like, I want to do this, like let's go. And he was like, yeah, I've always wanted to try it. And so we put a half rack of 8. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, like it was a very basic treatment. Like we weren't going like, I wasn't like maxing out any powers or any times. And he did great. He did not want to continue having hairs removed. You were not crying.
That was enough.
But you weren't,
No.
you weren't like, oh, I should do more of this tomorrow.
I tried to take it like a champ. I tried.
You did just fine. And that's why I was like, you didn't cry. You just didn't want to do more. It's like when Michael did it. He was like, if I have to for science, I will do it. But I don't want to.
There you go.
Like, I see what this is. Don't really want to do it again.
And then Carly, no, lidocaine injections can't help in those moments because especially in multi-needle, the area of clearance that you'd have to
it's
inject,
too big.
It's too big. So like it's if we were doing isolated, like a little pinpoint, like a little wheel, I could have absolutely send him over to Senza, do a little
but it's funny
lidocaine.
It's funny you say that because I actually got my first, we have a microneedling device in Canada and they wanted to test it on me for before and afters and I couldn't go through the treatment, which is supposed to be not painful, but I'm very sensitive. So I put Zensa and I had to wait 30 minutes or 20 minutes for it to act.
Oh my gosh.
That's how sensitive I am.
So
The trainer was telling me, are you serious? Like people get these treatments all the time. You're suffering. Like, yeah. So that's my,
my gosh.
my sensitivity.
This season, Electrolysis Unplugged is spotlighting our groundbreaking research project. We're working to bring legitimacy, data, and recognition back to electrology. If you're a practitioner ready to contribute detailed charting and client outcomes, or a student interested in learning the process, visit electrologycoalition.com, look under research, and get involved today. Together, we're writing the future of electrolysis.
I never forget when I was a first practicing electrologist, and my mom said to me, you gotta find someone that will let you practice on them, okay? With a lot of hair. And we happened to be having family dinner at my family's house, right? And I had my boyfriend, who is now my husband, there, and he's like, oh, you can practice on me. I don't care. I got a lot of hair, right?
Until you started.
Yeah.
And then he
We didn't know what he was signing up for.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
I didn't
He goes,
know
people
either.
pay for this? Yeah, no. But that's the thing is like the cute person goes, hey, do you want to try this? And you're like, that sounds like a good idea. Like, I'll do this. So Eileen says, needed a whole area of anagen hairs. Yeah. Like just those juicy, it was not that. It was a whole bunch of telogen leg hair. Eight of them to be specific. Yeah. So not the best first time clearance in the area. Oh my gosh. So why has maintaining those relationships with electrologists at this point, obviously bringing in a new company, you obviously want to be able to facilitate those relationships with past people as well. But why do you feel it continues to remain such an important part of the Clareblend brand? Like, why are you like, I have to focus on making sure people know that that's not going to go away?
So I think the image of our brand and all brands is so important because especially we're in a niche market. Electrolysis is not a widespread thing. A lot of my friends or people I speak to have no idea what electrolysis is. So it's really important to keep that brand image, and focusing on the user and our customers is really the best way to do it. And that's why we treat all customers equally. We're not into pushy sales tactics. We're not a company that goes on these big discounts for certain people and then we don't do it for others and create all of that, steer. So we've always been focused on our customers, and we are at Silhouette Tone too, and we do the same thing at Clareblend. So we think that, if the electrologist wins, we win. It's like a team effort in one way.
That is that statement right there. That needs to be on like a billboard. Electrologist wins, we all win. For sure. Because the fact is like, this is a relationship between manufacturers. I always hate it when people go, oh, this one and this one's my favorite. And it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like if you enjoy the machine, like if you want a machine that has a digital interface, go with a digital interface. If you want to have one that's buttons, go with the buttons. As long as you can provide a safe treatment.
We don't bring other
I mean-
other devices down. We really focus on what works for us, and we know a lot of the users love our devices, and they are happy to keep them going year after year. So that's what we want to focus on. And
So,
well, that goes into our next segment here.
Tell me.
Let's talk about
What's
the future.
ahead?
Oh, what's ahead? I did want to say one more thing about support, though, that I forgot to mention. So, what's a bit particular at Clareblend, I guess, is we for troubleshooting. Well, we have test modes on our devices, which are great because you could troubleshoot most of your accessory cords, ground, probe cords, because oftentimes we know it's either the foot pedal or the probe cord went bad after a few years. And that's not a complicated thing, right? As compared to maybe a device going bad.
The full machine.
So, we accompany our users through that testing mode, and they can call our office. We're open daily from 7 a.m. to 3:30, and they actually speak with our senior technician. So he's happy to explain everything over the phone, over video if needed. And they can also reach out to me, and I'll do it also. So there's just multiple avenues where you can reach us to understand or troubleshoot.
Yeah, it sounds like
I will say that
the
it's
practitioners can like go straight to the company, which is
Yeah.
sometimes a little bit hard to do. I guess with a niche market, that's probably important. But yeah, it sounds like they can pick up the phone and talk to, like the C-suite people.
Exactly. Wait, yeah.
Yeah.
The C-suite people in Reno, yeah.
The C means Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carl.
In that moment, it's Carl. You're going to be talking to Carl in that moment. So let's talk about what's ahead. Let's talk about your future.
Yeah.
Joanne's got a good question for you.
Yeah, we've heard some buzz about the upcoming Elegance launch. So can you give our listeners a preview of what they might expect?
So, we are officially launching our Elegance Plus. It should be in April, but I will say May to be safe. We have our prototypes done. We're implementing a new screen on the device. We're not going with many programs. We're trying to stay very similar to what we've had with the Elegance because it worked, but we want to put the devices a bit more up to date aesthetically. So new casing, digital screen, updates possible. So it's a first step for us at Clareblend to launch this device. We're very excited. As I said, we're in the testing phase. We're a second prototype's being built right now. Manuals are done. So we're almost there. Just a little more engineering work and a first production needs to be launched. But yeah, so we're doing that for the Elegance. And we have a few other projects too. I don't know if you want me to tell them right now. Should I talk about them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Bring it.
Please.
So I'll just
You're
bring it back
here
to what
first.
So the misconception of us being outdated and old, I'm going back to that. I do think that maybe Clareblend's marketing was not very much focused on in the past. So my goal for this year, and has been for the last year also, was really to target some devices we want to make changes to aesthetically. We're not focused too much on the functionality right now, as I said a few times, but we really want to make them more aesthetic, more eye-pleasing. So we're working on a new Essence and a redesigned G-Tech also device that we'll be launching in 2026, but probably towards the end of the year, because we want to get through the Elegance first and get that going. So those are our two new projects. We also just launched our website about a month ago. We have a new website. It's fully transactional. We started selling needles, which I think is good because we're so wet tone. We're on the East Coast, but if you want to buy ballet needles, well, West Coast better to buy from the West Coast supplier, right? Because just the transit times are so much lower. So we have a new website. I think it looks good. We put our history on there actually today, finalized that. So we're very excited with these projects we have going on.
Oh, yes. And it's so funny. Someone goes, probes. Probes and filaments. We rarely call them needles, just so you know here.
I know, I'm sorry, but it's because in Canada we call them needles and then
I
probes
know.
here. So,
That's okay.
I know.
Eventually, we'll change the world.
That's it.
It will
We have to-
one interview at a time. We're like,
That's right.
it's
When
so funny
ballet
'cause
comes on, it's just going to be needle, needle, needle.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop it! You're gonna have me over here like slapping like digital wrists, like stop it!
Yeah.
You don't call it that. It's so funny because every time that happens, I'm like, yeah. My students hear me. I'm like, they're like, what? Can I get a needle? I'm like, no.
You get a
Do you want a
probe.
filament? Do you want a probe? We're gonna probe that follicle. Or we're gonna put a filament in there. You know,
Yeah.
one of those two. So yeah, it's pretty funny in those moments. Okay, so where can we find Clareblend? Are you going to be presenting at any upcoming industry events like AES, or Advanced Electrology Symposium, or AEA? Is there anything coming up for SHMER or COPE? Like, where are we seeing you?
So Clareblend will not be a COPE. Silvertone will be a COPE. I haven't yet brought in Clareblend into Canadian events. Our main event is the AEA, which we will be attending in DC in October, I believe. I know there's the AES also coming. I just received all the information very recently, so I don't want to speak about it. We'll support the event in any way we can, that's for sure. But yeah, no, those are two electrology trade shows we're going to want to support this year, AEA and AES, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
like,
we have specials there because, as I said before, we're not a brand that goes on wide sales to try to get more sales before the end of the quarter. But at these shows, we do have special pricing we do not offer any other time in the year. So
very, very cool.
Right.
Well, I'm just making sure we didn't miss anything.
So,
No.
looking forward, what developments of innovations? I mean, you talked about a few, but what are you personally most excited about?
what I'm personally most excited about, I think for me, the whole journey has already been very exciting, I can say. I'm 31. This was a big thing for me. And it was, kind of, how to say, I was thrown into it. And it was very scary at first, very, very scary. I'd flown twice to Reno, didn't understand much. And I had to take on all of this big task of understanding relationships, the team. So I think for me, it's just already such an exciting project to continue the legacy of Clareblend, a company who's had all these previous ownerships, and just been there for so long. So I want to continue to innovate, bring change in the industry, stay alive, because as we know, we're a small business. It's hard for small businesses in every industry, and people don't realize, but manufacturing fully in the US comes with its challenges too, the costs. Just FDA regulate, there's a lot of costs involved with it. So I think the main goal is to keep the legacy going and still be here and talking about it in 20 years.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like this goes into our final reflection for today, and just kind of like a closing thought is like, if somebody were listening today and remembered only one thing about Clareblend at the end of the year, especially because you've learned so much about them in the last year and a half and made it part of your family at this point.
Yeah.
What would that message be that you want them to take away?
Well, I'm wanting to say if the electrologist wins, we win, because it sounded so great.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely.
That's like my final reflection. But no, I think what I said before also falls into my final reflection. It's really that we're a small company, but we're a family company, and we're an arm's length away, right? Or I don't know if you say that, but we're very we're very close to our customers, and I think that's what I want people to remember.
Okay.
That's very important. I think for all three of us, because and there's others on the call that are like this, we are generationally into the industry. It's not like when I think about your family, Carl, and getting to know you in the last couple of years, and when I opened up my school, I learned two major things about both of your families. Is that our families are more than just families that do electrolysis and are in the electrology industry. We have a passion for the development and the growth of this. We did not make it static. And I would say that one of the things that I'm excited about, as someone that came into the industry on Clareblend, and I've gotten to play with all the different machines, I still have Clareblends in the school, and I have Silhouette Tones and Apolis, and I have Gentronics, and hopefully like I'll have a multi-nil epilator of my own one day kind of thing. And like every one of those things, I see that as our minds, like our generation seeing this and saying, you know what, like what we were taught is great. And to honor what we were taught, we're going to innovate this direction. And I see that in you. I see that in all three of us and many of the other multi-generational people on here. I see that in every one of you guys when we talk at conventions. So personally, I think that the biggest takeaway is like, look for the people that are willing to take on a passion project like Carl and say, you know what, like we understand that Clareblend, there's people who wanted to retire, right? And we're going to naturally let them retire, but we don't want to and like Skip when Instantronics, the same thing with Sarah, right?
Same
it's
thing.
Like, you don't want to see it go away. So instead, how do we?
And a lot of electrolysis companies closed throughout the years, right? Manufacturers, and there was nobody to take them over. And Joanne just wrote in the chat, so I want to respond to that. She had a training from that warms my heart. My grandfather, Alfonso, for people who don't know, was who got us into electrolysis first. He was an engineer also, and he actually worked until he passed away at 94. Doing engineering work from his Mac, his big Mac computer. I would see him at home. But yeah, he's worked on that his whole life, and he would be very proud to see me. I know that, but yeah.
That is so cool.
My mom dropped in that she took a class from your grandfather 45 years ago in Montreal. So
yeah.
That's so special. And like, that's really cool, Joanne, because it's like this, whenever I got to meet my mom's trainers, right? These people, they just wanted to be like share the profession and we have currently 57 machines, different machines cataloged in the museum. Okay. That is 57 companies.
That's huge.
That have said that our industry was worth it. Now, mind you, not all of them survived. And when I say that they're cataloged, I shouldn't say that we have 57 companies. We have 57 epilators. Some of them are different ones. Like we have multi-generational Crees and the same thing with St. Pierre. And like we have that. And it is each generation after that says, oh, like I like this of this machine. I want to take this and I want to innovate this into it. And that is like, sometimes my students are like, oh, I wish I had this. And I'm like, well, the cool thing is I have people, and I'll say, oh, I have like people like Carl, where I can be like, hey, Carl, if this is ever something that we can have different, can you just ask, right? And you're willing to listen. I remember that one of the things that was like in 2024, we were at the AEA convention. And I said to Carl, I said, I love the new and different electrode for anaphoresis and cataphoresis. Love it. No notes except I can't sterilize it in an autoclave, right? And so I said, is there anything that we can do different, right? And so he brought it back and he said, this is what she wants, right? And we made a prototype version. And then we used it and we found out where the things that we might need to change. And then I went back to him and I'm like, boom, this is like the only shift. And then now I'm testing a new part of it. And it's like, you do listen. And I don't say, it's not like people do that all the time, right? It's not like you can have access to that all the time, but it was such an easy fix that sometimes you can just ask a question and get a yes, or get it like, let me see. At our next development meeting, I'll bring it up to the engineers. And that right there, if you have list items that, and I'm not saying that he's going to make a machine that's custom fit to you. Like that's not happening. Like that doesn't happen, right? But what I am saying is that if you ever see something that doesn't seem like it makes sense, it is worth talking to.
We love the feedback. We need it. We need it because we don't spend all day doing electrolysis at the office, you know? So it's a different focus. And if we don't get that feedback, we don't get on the ground experience. And that's how we developed our last devices too at Silhouette Tone. It was really by listening to our different markets, distributors, customers, and that's how we get moving and innovate.
Absolutely. You don't know what you don't know, and you won't know to change it.
Exactly.
Even if it needed to be changed, or even it could be improved upon without feedback. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, sometimes my students are like, I don't know how to ask you what I need. And I'm like, just keep asking questions. And if it helps, then we're on the right path. Right.
Yeah.
So very wonderful. Thank you for being here today, Carl.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Super cool.
Super cool. Call.
It was. If anybody has any follow-up questions, you can always put them into the question area on Mentorship Hours community page, and we'll always field them back over to him. and then we can answer them on future podcasts. We have him coming back on to talk about his family's other business, not too far out. I think it's second half of the year, but I know that we're talking soon again when we were
No,
talking
I
about
think it's very
silicone.
soon.
No, it's
Is
very
it?
soon. It's on the 31st.
Psych, just kidding. Don't listen to me. On the 31st, we're having him on to talk about the other one. What was I talking about for the other thing? Oh, I think that was for Henry.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We have a few interviews coming your way. Carl's next on the 31st. But that's exciting. So if you guys have questions, put them together and we can always kind of like
Yes.
help
Yeah,
him.
this will be for
Help you
silhouette
guys.
tone. So silhouette tone questions, think it ahead and let's
Bring
get
'em.
those out. Okay.
Absolutely. You have a
Thank
lot
you
of thank
so
yous.
much, guys,
Thank
for having
you.
me again. Have a great
Yeah,
rest of
absolutely.
the day. Bye,
Have a
guys.
great
Ciao,
evening.
ciao. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Carl, thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about Clareblend with the electrolysis community.
And for everyone listening, conversations like this are important because our equipment is such a fundamental part of the work we do every day. But the story behind it matters just as much as the technology itself.
If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with another electrologist or student that might benefit from the conversation.
And we'll see you next time on Electrolysis Unplugged, where we keep the conversation going beyond the probe.